Despite how much I love movies, almost none of them have caused the breakup of my relationship. This week's movie almost did. We're going to be talking about I Love You, Now Die on the Everyman Movie Review. Hello and thank you once again for joining me for yet another episode of the Everyman Movie Review. As I've been doing at the top of each of these episodes, I want to say a huge thank you to all our frontline workers who are helping us through the quarantine, whether that's nurses and doctors who are going into hospitals, or the retail workers who are stocking shelves, or the truck drivers who are bringing those products into the city for people like me, or the restaurateurs who are staying open so that we can get something different than the same old thing night after night. Thank you guys. You have all helped us make quarantine survivable, and it looks like we are finally getting out of it after all this time. And another special hello and thank you to everyone who is out on the streets peaceably marching and protesting, exercising your First Amendment rights, and letting everyone know how upset you are with the current state of things as they are in this country right now. If you do choose to go out, please do so smartly, and that means wear a mask. Make sure you're distancing as much as possible, and gloves where applicable, especially if you're going to be touching things that might be contaminated. So I debated doing a review for this week's movie, I Love You, Now Die. It's a documentary, so it's something different than what I usually will do, but kind of the visceral reaction that occurred after Roxanne and I finished watching it almost meant that I had to do it. The question was when, and luckily we've kind of worked through the queue of movies I've seen recently. We've been watching a lot of shows. We worked our way through Homeland and The Chi, and I don't really do, shows on this review, so I figured, hey, now let's work down through the queue of movies I haven't done, and here we are at the one that almost ended my relationship. Now, I say that partially in jest. Of course, we weren't about to break up over I Love You, Now Die, but I think that the documentary maker did a fantastic job in driving people to one of two poles when it comes to this movie. But before we get too far into it, let's get through the pleasantry, shall we? I Love You, Now Die was directed by Aaron Lee Carr. As a documentary, it is of course taken from videos that exist out in the world and by interviews that the documentarian has done, but it is essentially starring Michelle Carter, the defendant in the case, Conrad Roy, who is the victim in the case, and both of their family and friends, as well as the prosecutors, the defense lawyers, and other people who were involved at every step as this case worked its way through the judicial system. And here is where we come to the important question of the movie. Where do words have an impact in the real world? And can words sent via text cause someone to do something they wouldn't have done otherwise? Now, it could be argued, if I was standing next to you and we're both on a bridge and I just berate you and yell at you and demean you and order you, and if I was a physically imposing person over you, that I could possibly get you to jump off that bridge. But knowing who I am and you knowing who you are, could I do that without being there with you on the bridge? And if you decided to do that, could I be held responsible either way? And I have to say, coming from a legal background the way that I am, it was difficult. It is a case, not really a first impression, I guess, because I'm sure this kind of thing has happened before, whether it was a phone call or a fax or who knows what. But the unique thing about this case is the fact that it's the first time that texting and the way that teens text has kind of been brought into a courtroom. And listen, I text a lot. I mean, there was 1 month, I think, when I was in college that I did 5,000 texts a month, which is a lot of texts in 30 days. But keeping in mind that some of those were group conversations, which means if me and my 4 friends, the 5 of us, are in a group conversation, every 1 text is technically 5 texts. So you kind of run those numbers up very quickly. But when you're looking at someone who is sending 30,000 texts a month to mostly one person, some other friends, yes, but mostly one person and mostly individually, that is a lot. That's like a job. It's work to do that much messaging. But the fact is, people have entire relationships at a distance via FaceTime and text messaging. And for these two, the Conrad Roy, the victim, and Michelle Carter, they didn't even FaceTime. They didn't spend that much time doing face-to-face actions. It was mostly just texting. An entire life lived via texting. And it reminded me somewhat of those games that most of you are probably too young to remember. But there used to be text-based computer games where sometimes little animations would play out on the screen, but for the most part, it was read a paragraph and then put in a command, and that would spawn some kind, or choose a command, and that would spawn the next paragraph to read. It was kind of a create your own story, or you might not even remember these books even, where at the bottom of a page or at the end of a chapter it would say, go to 37 if you choose to fight the dragon, go to 45 if you choose to run down the hallway. And basically, that's how these early text games kind of worked. But you could live an entire life in that world of a text game. And in a way, that's kind of what Michelle Carter and Conrad Roy were doing. They had their entire lives with their families and school and friends and all of that, but they had this whole other life that they lived. And I guess in a way, it also reminded me, aging myself yet again, of a game that was played online a long time ago called Second Life. I think it actually still exists, but Second Life kind of allowed people to go work their time and be with their families, but then log on and go be who they really wanted to be. And there was, listen, I played Second Life. I never got so into it that I was spending, dozens of hours a week. Some people were, but there was a lot of really cool people there. And I just remember there was a guy who used to play guitar and sing. And of course, the mic, they would let you do vocals and everyone could listen. And he used to play guitar and he was so fantastic. And I remember when I first found him just being like, why is this guy not some big singer somewhere? And he just had stage fright. He could not get in front of people and sing. But in Second Life, his avatar could get up on stage and sing and play guitar to his heart's content while he was safely back in home, in probably his parents' basement. And I think that the reason I thought about Second Life, and that guy in particular, when I was watching the documentary, is that that's kind of how these two were. They had this secret life that no one knew about but the two of them. It's kind of unclear whether or not they were even in a real relationship, but, I think I would defer to say yes. The problem is we don't see all the messages, 30,000 in a month, and they were together for several months. Who knows where those conversations went, but you can get to know a lot about a person in that kind of time with that kind of contact. But essentially, these two have a relationship that no one really knows about, and there's a lot of things that people don't know about, they're both very depressed, and they're both on medication, and they're kind of spiraling together. Whether that spiral goes up or the spiral goes down, they're stuck together in that. And they're there for each other through big moments in their life, some of which are made up by Michelle and don't really happen. But, they're there for each other, and they feel like it's a real thing, even if it only exists in their text messages. And Conrad has been depressed for a long time, and he decides he wants to take his own life. And Michelle talks him out of it for a while, and then eventually encourages him to do it. Because, as she argues, she loved him, and she didn't want to see him in pain anymore, and she could just tell how much pain he was in, day after day after day. And therein lies maybe the bigger question of this movie. I'm a proponent that you should be able to be in control of every aspect of your life. And that includes the ability, if you so choose, under certain circumstances, to be able to end it. There are a lot of people who are suffering from debilitating diseases, and really all they have to look forward to is being a burden on their loved ones for a long time, maybe even after any faculties or emotions that would resemble the person have long gone. And for those people, we have started as a society to embrace the idea that maybe they should have control over their life. And this started back in the middle of the 20th century with someone who you may not even know, named Dr. Jack Kevorkian. And that name probably makes people's skin crawl now, but essentially what he did was give people the right and the ability to end their life if they so choose. And he wasn't going to depressed teenagers. He was going to older people and people with debilitating, deadly diseases. And he was helping them to end their lives. So the question, I think, then is, should we as a society embrace that? Should we be okay with people ending their lives? And My position is yes. I want to be in control always. If it came down to me being a burden on the people that I love, I would rather just go quietly and happily in a situation that I can control than to be that burden for a long time for someone. And maybe you don't feel that way. Maybe you feel completely the opposite, and that you would rather get every moment of life, no matter how empty that moment may be. And that's fine. We're allowed to disagree. But I think that the reason that got brought up is because essentially everything that was alleged about Michelle was her encouraging him to end his life if he so choose. Now, Conrad was not old and he wasn't suffering a debilitating disease. He was a depressed teenager who, in her words, one of her early texts, was looking for a permanent solution to a temporary problem. But as the documentary goes along, we see how this tone kind of changes. And at some point, Michelle, the get a hold of yourself, I love you, we're going to be together, becomes the come on, baby, I love you, it's time, let's do this, stop the suffering. And I will say that there's really two kind of extreme poles to people who see this movie. Either people think she was crazy and she made him do it and she drove him to it and she deserves everything that happens to her, or they see two teenagers in this death spiral of depression and emotionality and being able to connect with no one but each other. And the tragedy is that either one of them could have been the person who ended their life. And it happened to be Conrad with Michelle standing by rather than the reverse. And it also happened that Michelle maybe was a little more active than she should have been. Some details from it, he tried to get out of the car. She told him to get back in via phone, via text, not in person. All of the things he did, he chose to do himself. And therein lies the crux of the discussion. The thing that nearly caused the end of my relationship, again, said in jest, Roxy and I fundamentally disagreed about the end result of this. She saw Michelle as this cold-hearted person who deserved punishment, and she couldn't wait to get to the end to find out, did they put her in jail? How long was she in jail for? Do we have to worry about her getting out again? Meanwhile, I was listening to the same movie that she was, the same testimony, just like the jury was, and I was leaning towards the other side, that these are two very sick people. And, I don't know that I believe everything the defense team offered. I think that they were looking for a flash in the pan, something big to get everybody's attention. And it's not enough to just say these two were sick together. And one of them chose a way out, and the other one is left cleaning up the mess that they left, that is here. But I'm also not a big proponent of punishing people for the things that they say, especially even if it's encouraging someone to do something, that person makes the final act on their own. No matter what I encourage you to do, I hope that at the moment that you decide to do it, you stop and reflect and make a decision for yourself, not based on what I would want, or what I'm telling you to do, or what I'm ordering you to do, or otherwise. And I hope that everyone does that. And, we have worked our way through the queue of movies. That is absolutely true. But I think that there is a little bit of a lesson here for everyone, especially in the times that we live in. Like, hey, police officers, you're being sent out. Hey, National Guard, in some cases, you're being sent out. And maybe you're being told to do things that you disagree with. At the moment when you are about to do it, you are responsible for the things that you do. No one else is. And you have the ability to check yourself and to check the people around you to make sure it's the right thing. And I think Conrad had the same ability. And no matter what Michelle did, no matter what the police commissioner or the mayor or the president even does, we all have the ability to. Unlike a lot of documentaries, though, to get back to the movie, I think that this one did a really excellent job of building up everything to make you think this is going to be a runaway, and then cutting your knees up from under you, showing you a lot of other stuff that doesn't work for that, and then cutting your knees out from under you again. And I just felt myself while I watched flip-flopping back and forth as what I would think of as a neutral observer, someone who's educated about the law and its limits, but also someone who has had people in my life with mental health issues all throughout my life, just going back and forth and trying to figure out which side of this line do I fall on. And this documentary did a great job of trying to get me to lean one way and then being like, why are you leaning that way? That's totally the wrong way to lean, bro. And then like, oh, okay, I'm going to go the other way. Like, nah, now why are you leaning that way? That's totally not the right thing. And by the time you get to the end, I feel like you have considered both sides enough that you can make the decision that's right for you. And as far as a documentary goes, that's really what I hope for. There's a lot of documentaries out there that are really one-sided. They just offer one perspective. And that isn't to say that there aren't some topics that only have one side of a discussion. Systematic racism exists, and we need to do things to change society so that it doesn't exist anymore. Climate change is real. It doesn't matter what you say or what facts you present. Climate is changing and we are warming the planet. We human beings are warming the planet. And that's just two examples, but two that popped out of my head immediately. But there are a lot of documentaries that even though there are two very clear point of views, they lean one way or the other. This one doesn't do that. This one gets you leaning and then makes you check yourself, and gets you leaning and makes you check yourself. So I think when you get to the end of it, you know how you would decide. If you were a juror, you know where you stand. And that is the best kind of documentary to watch. So it's actually a 2-part miniseries. It's available on HBO. I'm going to see if it's available anywhere else, but the links will be down in the show notes below. It's absolutely worth your time. And hey, if you want to risk your relationship, watch it with your significant other and just see whether or not you both fall on the same side or whether you, like me, fell on the opposite side from your significant other. But it's worth your time. 2 big thumbs up. Definitely go check it out. I will say, obviously, that there are some trigger warnings for it. It deals with a lot of mental health issues. It deals with self-harm. It deals with teenage self-harm. A young man ends his life, so suicide obviously is a trigger for that. And there's a lot of just mean girl stuff in it. And I know for a lot of people that may be triggering to issues that you dealt with in high school. So, and I say mean girl stuff because it's girls, but I mean mean boy stuff too. Just bullies and fake friends and trying to live a different life online than you do in real world and all of that stuff. So if any of that's going to bother you, it's basically the whole thing about the movie. So just avoid it. But if that's not true, I think everyone else will find something about themselves at the end of this documentary. And for that, it's absolutely worth it. So there you have it, yet another episode of the Everyman Movie Review in the books. First up, before even the patrons, let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, I finally got a haircut. No, I didn't go out to a salon. If you guys come to my channel just to check out the Everyman Movie Reviews, you're not going to want to miss the video of me cutting my hair live on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook. I put up a poll and said, should I wait or should I cut it now? Overwhelmingly, people said cut it. So Roxy had been hitting me up to cut my hair since she got here, and I let her do it. And you can watch the video and all the kind of ridiculousness that went on during that right here on the YouTube channel. You're going to find that video right here. And I'm going to be looking to do more videos like that. So make sure you check out all the new releases on the channel. You're not going to be disappointed. Now, one thing you won't see here on YouTube is the longer version of it, the one with bonus footage after the live stream stopped, because that is only for my patrons over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Robert N. Cheek. Some folks over there are getting behind the scenes action. They're getting exclusives that nobody will see. They're coming along with me as I write my next book. Those are all things you can experience for as little as $1. It is 100% worth it. And you can also then know that you're supporting me doing my work and everything that I'm doing. So go on over to Patreon, sign up to be a supporter, and check out all of the stuff I have going on over there. And of course, I don't want to forget about the social media. You can find me on all your social networks at Robert N. Cheek. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, TikTok, everywhere at Robert N. Cheek. I try to keep up. I try to post a lot. I have been posting an exponential amount during the George Floyd protests. So make sure you're following me to get all the latest on my life. And of course, one last thing, robertncheek.com, still under construction, but we are starting to get more content up there. If you're looking for anything about what I'm working on or what I have or what's out there in the world, you're going to find it at robertncheek.com, including all of these videos, the other videos from YouTube, the books, the screenplays, all of that. At robertncheek.com, that's the place to go. You're not going to want to miss it. And finally, if you can't get enough of me because, why would you? Make sure you're checking out the Oh the Anthem podcast. New episodes every single Tuesday at ohtheanthem.com, on YouTube at Oh the Anthem, and on anchor.fm patreon.com/Oh the Anthem. Me and my buddy Corey have now done 320 plus weeks of consecutive new episodes, new material every single week. But thank you for checking out this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you a little break from everything that's going on in the world around us, and that it lets you recharge and give yourself a little self-care. Make sure you come back. New episodes every Thursday and one day in between, plus other stuff that's going on that's not the reviews. Make sure you turn on the notifications. It'll let you know whenever I post something new. And until next time, please take care of yourselves and each other. Have a great week, everybody.